Good morning and welcome back to the Brick by Brick podcast with Ronald Pauleus. I am here with the guest, Jonathan Buhler, and so excited to have him. This episode, we're going to talk about his backstory, how he got into real estate. And the reason I like to do these is because people like you who are listening in, people like me from 2 years ago, didn't know anything about real estate and wanted to get into it, wanted some financial freedom, some location freedom, some time freedom. And we just started on a path. We started reading maybe Rich Dad Poor Dad, started reading Think and Grow Rich and different things that kind of sowed seeds in our minds of maybe I maybe I can have more time than I want. Maybe I can go to the gym on a Tuesday. And what I want to do is hear Jonathan's backstory, see how it resonates with some people, and go from there. Jonathan, thanks for joining us. Where are you from?
It's my pleasure. Thanks very much for having me. We live in Montana. We live in Belgrade,
Okay.
Montana, just outside of Bozeman.
Hi.
And from Oregon originally, though. So I grew up, born and raised in Oregon. We moved here about 4.5 years ago.
Okay. What takes you to Montana?
Oh, man. I've got some really long-term friends out here, and some of my
Okay.
spiritual mentors are here as well. And so when my wife and I, after 2020, we had wanted to really kind of have a fresh start with the community that had been supporting us. So we came out here to be closer to our community that we were wanting to grow with and continue to journey on with. So just want to be close to our friends and our spiritual mentors. So yeah.
Nice, nice. So you're there in Montana, close to the spiritual mentors. Talk, talk to us some about your background. You're doing real estate now. You got a sub two hat. You're in sub two. You're also in owners club. Talk to us about how you grew up. Was real estate just in your family? Kind of give us a scoop.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So we grew up. Both my parents were kind of professionals. So my mom was a nurse. My dad was a teacher, PE teacher, and a basketball coach. And they spent a lot of time working. And we had 4 kids in my family, and so
Nice.
they were working real hard, to help us, to have what we needed, and also to provide a way forward, for us in life. And so they sacrificed a lot of time and a lot of energy, to put us through sports and help us go through college and help us to really have opportunities that they wanted to provide. And so, but what that meant was that they were so busy working so much of the time, and I kind of always felt like I had wanted more with them, more kind of presence with them, and more time with them. And so I think it shaped some of the ways that I viewed how I would want my future to look like. And in terms of real estate, like one of my high school buddies had mentioned he was reading this book about investing, and basically how you can, when you have investments that pay you above and beyond what they cost to hold them, that when those investment revenues come in that are above your expenses, then
Mhm.
you're financially free. And so that principle really stuck in my brain, and it was just it was kind of a really significant moment because I'd never heard that before. My parents, again, were kind of W-2 workers and professionals, but they were not investing in that sort of way. But it just opened up a little, a little pathway in my brain. And my grandfather had always been involved in real estate in some way. He had properties. He had 2 properties that was kind of right next to there. He kind of bought them over time. They had 5 children, and so he was a principal at a school, and he had really invested his life into education. But he always tried to make real estate work, and he never really figured out how to do it. But he was very supportive of me and kind of the entrepreneurial spirit. And so anyway, when I told him that principle, like, when you can buy assets that fund your living expenses and then you're financially free, he was like, yeah, that's pretty hard to do. I tried to do it, my whole life and never really figured out how to do it. And I was like, he kind of said he couldn't do it. And I kind of took that as a challenge and was like, I'll bet I could figure
Okay.
this out. There's plenty of people who have figured it out.
So you took it the opposite way.
That's
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I
All
wasn't deterred by
right.
some of the challenges that he had, but he did inspire me in a lot of ways to go and
Awesome.
figure out how to do that.
Awesome. Okay. So what as you kind of took that on as a challenge, others would have normally quit or say, "Oh, if this person I respect who is above me thinks it's not worth it, I okay, why would I waste my time?" You went the opposite route. You're like, "Okay, you couldn't figure it out. I'm going to." In the midst of with you deciding to figure it out and then you figuring it out, talk to us about that timeline and share struggles, hurdles, speed bumps. Like what happened between here and here?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, so I think if I were to kind of like do the big picture of it, like, and I'll go into the details of it too a little bit on the timeline, but essentially I think what it was people. It was my grandfather, telling me what he told me, and then that kind of lit a fire in me. And then it was, I had dated this girl in college, whose father had done quite well financially. So being around him and him having a much broader perspective and deeper understanding of how that stuff could happen. He had owned a marketing company and a marketing agency, and
Oh,
so he
yeah.
had a business. But he gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that
Yeah.
really opened my whole world up to like, oh, this is what an asset is, this is what a
Yeah.
liability is, this is what cash flow really is, this is another way of of operating that was very different from what my parents had modeled for me growing up. And so yeah, it was really compelling. His book was so simple and straightforward, and it taught me a completely different way of thinking about finances. And so so for me, yeah, it was people. It was somebody, I think he had an incentive, if I was going to be pursuing his daughter, that he would want me to know a bit more about how to provide for her. And then and he just had a much bigger perspective on finances than my folks ever had. They hadn't learned from their folks in that way, but they did well with what they had, but they had not been exposed in the same sort of way that I was being exposed to it, and partly just because I was curious and interested.
Gotcha.
And so, but then there were people who like provided some of the knowledge and then just the experience being around people who have done it. Like it becomes possible for you just by being around them, and then them passing resources on to you. It's an incredible gift to be around people like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just being in a room where people are doing stuff that you can only dream of, that you didn't really quite think was possible, or you just didn't know how to get to that. So you you read the Purple Book. So many
Yeah.
attribute that to being what unlocks their thoughts, their creativity, their oh, there's more to this world. And in some ways, you had a rich dad
Yeah.
through your girlfriend's, father. So talk to us about what that Rich Dad Poor Dad book unlocked for you. What got rolling in your mind? What gears?
Yeah. Well, and some of the I had both. I had my poor dad, who was like my real dad, who worked his whole life, and
Yeah.
when I actually went to buy my first property, I had struggled to save up the when I was out on my own after college. I'd struggled to like come up with the down payment money, and with some of the jobs that I was working, and basically like my dad didn't have it. He didn't have it to give. And
Nice.
even if he did, I'm not sure if he would have. He might have, but he was not as kind of entrepreneurial and was not as supportive in that sense. And he had four children too. He was still, like kind of providing for. And so I think he was still in kind of that mode, and to give him a bit more grace on that. But when he said he couldn't do it, he did mention my grandfather, who was like, hey, like he may have that money and he may be willing to support you. He's been known to be very generous that way, and he wants to support his
Mhm.
grandchildren. And so he directed me to my grandfather, and it actually hurt quite a bit when my father. I didn't feel like I had his backing or had his,
Yeah.
you know, help in that way. And so that was a bit of a blow, but it also it created in me a desire to kind of, well, okay, if the help isn't here, I'll go learn another way. And having had that experience with my girlfriend at the time, her father, it was like there's other people who have figured this out have a bigger perspective on this, and would probably have more financial backing to help with too. So, but those instances, as much as they were painful, they also helped me to grow. So I don't know if he did that on
Mm.
purpose. Probably he's a pretty wise guy, but
Well,
he
would you
was
say, because you said there that you felt like you didn't have his backing, was it because he didn't have the money, right?
I that's yeah I he didn't he didn't necessarily have it um, to
So would you say that he,
to risk.
like, oh, to risk? Okay, okay, okay. I gotcha. I gotcha. You
Yeah,
keep going.
and
I
so
gotcha.
yeah, and that's not to drag on him. I'm sure he had plenty of pressures and things that he was
For
worried
sure.
about, but it did. I think that was not the way that I wanted to be. Like I wanted to, and maybe I'll change my tune because when I'm in his position, if I have children, like that will want to do that. But I felt so empowered by my grandfather because he did have that money. He did offer. He said, yeah. He thought about it for just a few seconds. I couldn't believe it, really. That generosity and that support and that just yes, I love you. I want to support you. I want to
Yeah,
help you grow. I trust you. I believe in you. That was really, really profound to me, and it. So that was one of the forays into even just understanding that money isn't just linear. It's not just in one place, but like
mm,
you may get creative. If you don't have the
mm,
money, maybe somebody else that does, and if you can provide a safe return for them, or if you can you know have a strategy and a plan to be sure that they're secured, and then you know there's more money than you can imagine. But it doesn't have to just come from one source.
for sure.
So it kind of began the creative process of like, oh, how could I do this instead of like, oh, I can't because it's not available from the one source that I tried
Exactly.
to ask or expect from. So that opened up my world quite a bit. Just even back then, he had also helped me with a painting company I had when I was in college. He let me
Hey,
use a pickup truck that he had,
there you
and for
go.
like the whole summer and even and beyond. Like he was so generous. So I had his little Toyota pickup running my college pro painting franchise in college, and so he was very helpful in that way too. But he just always believed in me and always was interested in wanting
Yeah,
to help where he could. You know.
that's awesome. So did he help with that down payment you needed?
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. If I didn't mention, yeah, he. I needed $8,000
Okay.
to buy my first property in 2009, and I didn't have it. I had trouble saving it all up, and but he had it, and it was so cool because at the beginning of the year in January, I had written out these goals, and I was shocked. Come July, I'd forgotten that I did that. I knew that I wanted to buy a property
Yeah.
with 5 bedrooms that I could rent out, and I wanted to have it by
Oh,
like
house
July.
hacking.
And so at the
Nice.
beginning of the year, I'd written it down, and then come July, I was sitting at a coffee shop and was like, I should I should start doing this. And so like I started immediately. I hadn't even remembered I'd written it down, and by the end of July, I think I was in contract, and
Oh,
and then
wow.
we closed like on August, at the end of August, and it was a short sale. There was
Mm,
already a buyer
obviously.
in contract.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so I had asked. I'm a man of faith, and I think God gives abundantly, but also in His timing and in the way that He wants to. But anyway, I felt as though the house was for me, and I asked, God for it, and then if it worked out, amazing. That was what He wanted. If it didn't, great. But I could feel fine about it either way. But anyway, so I kind of invited the Lord into it, asked for His help with the house, and sure enough, the guy like bought a TV or something, fell out of contract, and his credit didn't work for the purchase, and then my backup offer that was a little bit higher came in and got accepted, and that began my real estate purchasing,
Okay.
and so that property I still hold it today. It still pays me cash flow, and it's a great property. It's a really nice place for people to live, and yeah, that kind of
So
began.
you
The whole
started off
thing.
house hacking, sounds like.
Yep.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
would you explain what house hacking is for our listeners?
Yeah, well, there's a couple different ways to do it, but for me, it was just a single family home that had 5 bedrooms, and I lived there, so it provided a home for me, and then I could rent out those other rooms to help
Yeah.
other people with reasonable rent and a nice place to live, and a landlord who is certainly invested in keeping the home nice and helping it to be a good place for other people. But then,
Nice.
yeah, so it's kind of a win-win. I get my mortgage paid for, and then some cash flow on top of it, and for me, like I always wanted to make sure that the house could work on multiple levels. Like it could work as a
Yeah.
long-term rental, it could work as a house hack, it could work as an Airbnb, it could work for development potential. So all of the properties that I have, I only have 3 of them, but 2 of them all have very, very strong development capability along with them. And so, in addition to the rental income and the Airbnb, I always wanted to make sure that it could fund itself. So I didn't
Yes.
have to be the one who was
Yeah.
solely providing the mortgage payments. And so it felt really secure because you have a place to live, you've got other
Yeah.
people that you get to
Yeah.
live with, and they're friends of mine too. They're people I knew and friends of
Mhm.
mine. We got to enjoy it together and have some really good times in my 20s and 30s. It was great.
Nice. So, that are these properties in Montana or Oregon?
My first 2 are in Oregon, so they're in Portland, Oregon.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Now, are they to this day, at least to one, is it still a rent by room model you're taking on that?
I had to develop a bit of a hybrid for this because in Portland the rental laws are very, very tenant. They very heavily favor the tenants, and
Gotcha.
and so renting by the room puts you at a lot of risk. If you've got, you can get
Mm,
one bad tenant, but then they've got so many rights and they can really kind of screw things up for your whole house and for the other tenants. And so,
mm, mm.
which I've never actually had happen, thankfully. But you try to mitigate those risks as best you can,
Sure.
given the laws and the culture and everything else. Um, but no, so I kind of would get one person who ends up kind of putting a house together. And so, and because the homes have so much room, I actually added a bedroom to the first house. So there's like 6
Yeah.
rooms. And so I would find somebody who wanted to have that many rooms and could live inexpensively because, 3,000 or 3,200 bucks divided by 6 is less than 5, and so each
Yeah.
person would be
Yeah.
paying less. And so it's a really good deal for them. And I can charge a little bit higher than market rents because there's so much space. So I'm kind of looking for
Mm.
that kind of unicorn tenant, which
I
isn't that
see.
hard to find, really.
That
I've been
anchor,
very sorry.
that anchor, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, and then it would be kind of it's really most of the communication happens between me and that one person who kind of heads the house, and so when there's I know the houses inside and out because lived in them and worked on them quite a bit when I was there, and so when they have issues, they text me, they call me, like they all have my number, they all have access to me, but they all kind of know that if there's a specific issue with the house, they'll kind of run it through kind of the head of household, and I did that in my second house as well, and just having people who are, of course, qualified, to rent, the home, but then also they attract really good people too, and so
Yeah.
it really helps having that kind of anchor tenant who is really responsible and will bring in good people for you. And my whole thing is like whether it's in my rentals or whether it's in my real estate business or whether it's in my realty brokerage or whatever. When you take care of your people or take care of your tenants, when you deliver a lot of value on the front end and really honor them with your with how you treat them and how you take care of the problems that are important for them and how you give them a good place to live. When you take care of them, they take care of you. And to me, it's
Yeah.
like that's just such a foundational principle that I'm I've been learning to live over the years, and it's been really a beautiful thing.
Nice. Nice. Take care of them and they'll take care of you. Love that.
Yeah, and your properties, it's yeah, it's something that we learn in the sub two community as well. Like when you provide value up front, like
Yes.
be the giver, be the go giver, give more value um, than than you'd expect or people would expect, and they'll give it back in ways that you don't have to worry so much about. You know,
Big time. Awesome. Awesome. So you're able to So you got the two there. I'm assuming the other one you have is in Montana, where you're at currently.
Yep.
Okay. So talk to us about where where you're at. Well, actually, let's save that for the next episode. So you're in a situation where you did you go to college after high school? Like what's that story there?
Yeah, I did. I I did go to college right after high school. I went to George Fox University in Newburgh, Oregon.
Oh,
It's kind of a small liberal arts, Quaker school. And yeah, I learned a huge amount. I really didn't have a clear focus of what I wanted to do career wise. I mean, at first I wanted to get into music and be a kind of choral conductor. I'd done a lot of music and as a musician and singer and guitar player. But I had started dating this girl, and her dad was, he was a marketing guy and a business guy. And so I was like,
gotcha.
well, sorry, before that, actually, I was super interested in psychology too, because I really love people. I'm interested in how people work and understanding where they come from and how they view the world and how to help, and also learning about how to grow and help myself too, but so I did kind of the core requirements for music and was like, I just don't know if I wanted to make a career out of that. And then, but I was really interested in psychology, so I started taking the core requirements for psychology. And then I met, I had the girl that I was dating, and her dad was more in the business end of things. And I had also had an interest in kind of business and entrepreneurial, kind of
Mhm.
pursuits anyway. And so then I kind of like, I had all the core requirements, in each of these, disciplines, but in order to do the degree in 4 years, I did what's called an interdisciplinary degree, where I kind of like combined them all and made it my
Okay.
own degree, because I didn't want to do an extra, year to finish out all of the requirements to get there. I didn't need 3 degrees.
Yeah, nice.
And so, but in that time, I also had I had mentioned the College Pro painting franchise as well. So that I did a summer of
Yeah.
that and just learned a huge amount about business and kind of how not to do business, but also some of the ways
Okay.
to do business. And that was where I kind of learned the diligence to really work hard for people and be a man of my word and make sure that the things that I said that I was going to do, that I would actually do them, and
Mm-hmm.
to try to deliver at a higher level than people would expect. And I didn't always do that in the timeline that I would have wanted, but I did go back and like make sure that everything that I had promised to do, I did come back and do. And even taking care of painters, like we ran out of work, but I told them I'd employ them all summer. And so rather than
Mm,
letting them go and missing out or failing the word that I'd given them, I kind of had them finish out the jobs that I was just going to finish up to make money that summer, because I didn't make a lot of money, or almost any. But
wow.
because I did that, so it was kind of some really good lessons, really hard learned lessons. But I felt like was able to honor those guys, and even if it was at the cost of my own profit, unfortunately. But
Man.
again, it's college. You're trying things out and learning new things, and getting a chance to.
Yeah.
There's just so much learning, in anything you
Yeah.
take on.
So we we're gonna have another episode, and I want to continue to pick your brain. But from this episode, I'm realizing that you obviously have a heart to help people, help them flourish, help them do well. Whether that's making sure they have a good, nice, livable place, or at your own expense, making sure they have money because you gave them your word. Talk to us here, and my listeners are here. They're thinking, okay, they went to college, they have this degree, and they're wanting to get into real estate. What do you do currently in real estate?
Yeah, so I went and got my real estate license in 2012. A good friend of mine was one of the top agents around. He was just growing his business at that time, and he invited me to be his assistant. So I got to learn with him, and it was
Right.
a really valuable education. And so it also gave me a chance to try out how he does things and try out if it was something that I wanted to do long term. And his goals and the way he wanted to do business was very different than mine. He was more high volume, wanted to grow a
Mm,
really substantial book of business. And for me, it was always way more about service and about providing
gotcha.
kind of a high touch, kind of a higher level of service, just
Yeah.
people wise, and but he's very successful. He still does amazing, and but I learned a lot from him, and so that's one way of like for me starting out. That if people don't know what they want to do, finding people that they know, or even
Mhm. Mhm.
interviewing people, like
Mhm.
finding a way to bring value to other people, and that you bring value, that then they provide a lot of value too in terms of education, and so that was kind of one of the places that I had started. But yeah, for people that want to start out, I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways to start. And a lot of it depends what your goals are too. Like, do you want to be a full-time investor? Do you want to replace your monthly cash flow? And do you want to build a massive business and have huge acquisitions and have loads and loads of properties that really set you up? So it really depends on what you want to do. But there are unbelievable opportunities in real estate, and there's way more than most people would expect, I think. But yeah, I,
Yeah, yeah.
there's lots of
Awesome.
different ways to begin.
Awesome. So I'm hearing from that, if you could interview someone in the space you want to be in and maybe even get a mini internship, you might get some hands-on experience to really give clarity on if you want to do it or not, or if you want to do it differently. I mean, you like you said, you do it differently than your friend, and both of you are still doing business. So that's awesome, awesome. Well, Jonathan, thanks for your time. We're gonna have another episode here, but I appreciate you being on here. And for my listeners, what are you guys doing to build a life worth living brick by brick? I bring these guests on so that you could kind of hear that there are different ways to get to financial freedom, time freedom, and location freedom. You don't have to do direct to seller like I do. You don't have to do, you don't have to become a real estate agent. Like you don't have to just take this one route. There are many routes open. You could go my route, you could go Jonathan's route, or you can go a transaction coordinator route like LRA. There are just so many opportunities, and there are nuggets that if you just get a hold of them, like that internship idea is just genius because you've not dedicated your whole life to doing this. This is just an internship. You're just scouting the area, scouting the field, and if it works out, awesome. Go all in. If it doesn't, it was just an internship, right? So build a life worth living. Jonathan, thanks for being here and thanks for giving us of your time. We'll catch you,
It,
all of you guys, on the next episode.
it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.